This is rental car number 88, and today I'm driving the 2018 Hyundai Tucson SEL Plus. So the SEL Plus is actually one of the highest trim levels. The only one higher than this is the Tucson Limited, and I haven't seen many of those on the road. Regardless, this one retails for about $27,000, and because of its cost and its high trim level, there's actually quite a bit of good things to talk about. So let's jump right in by popping the hood and taking a look at what's underneath. So the Tucson is front-wheel drive, and it comes with a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder engine with a 6-speed automatic transmission with shiftronic. And that's just Hyundai's marketing term for sport shift. All that gets you 164 horsepower and some pretty good gas mileage. 23 in the city and 30 on the highway with a 16.4-gallon fuel tank. And that fuel cap, well, it's on the driver's side of this vehicle. So I don't know about you, but I'm never really impressed with a bunch of numbers about a vehicle. What I like to do is pull off on the side of the highway at a closed weigh station, take the car to a full stop, and then slam down on that accelerator and see what happens. And that's what I'm doing now, right? As you can see, it's not a rocket ship. It's a Hyundai, right? And you don't have a whole lot of horsepower, but it's enough. I mean, I'm cruising at a pretty good speed right now, and I'm able to jump onto the highway with no problem, and it's a little bit fun when you do this. So if you're looking for the fastest crossover SUV on the road, well, you're probably going to have to go elsewhere. But if performance isn't your top priority, well, then you're not going to be disappointed here. Really, the Tucson performs well. So with that out of the way, let's jump inside the vehicle and see what kind of features the SEL Plus trim level has to offer. So let's start with the key fob. It's got a good weight to it, 4 buttons on the front, really nothing on the back but the Hyundai logo. It is a flip-out key, which I kind of like. This one has a very satisfying click to it, which is always fun to play around with. And there's nothing special here, just insert the key to the right of the steering wheel to turn on the vehicle. So now that we have the car on, let's take a look at the steering wheel. Starting on the left-hand side, you have your volume rocker here, phone controls, that mode button switches the center console from Bluetooth to radio, etc. On the right-hand side, you have your cruise controls, along with the buttons to interact with the menu features in this nice-sized digital display right in the gauge cluster. And I like this setup. 2 big gauges, and then as I mentioned, a decent-sized digital display right in the center. So I'm really impressed with this small display, especially how things are organized. Just an example, my biggest pet peeve is when you lock the car, the horn beeps. And I was able to find that in the menu settings within a couple of seconds and turn it off, which is, well, it's pretty fantastic in my book. Usually I have to jump into the owner's manual and figure out some sort of weird combination of buttons to hold down to turn that off. But not with the Tucson. Anyway, moving on. To the left of the steering wheel, you really have all your standard buttons here, right? Window controls, mirror controls. Up above on the dash, you have buttons to adjust the intensity of the lighting in the gauge cluster, along with a button to turn on and off traction control. Below there, you have your fuses. I kind of thought this was a storage area, but it's not. It's just the car's fuses. And at the very bottom, you have the trunk release and also a push pedal parking brake. So since we're on this side of the vehicle, let's talk side view mirrors. There is no blind side detection on the Tucson, even at this high trim level, but you do get a little cutout in the mirror to give you a little bit extra visibility. However, that is only available on the driver's side view mirror. It is not on the passenger side view mirror. Shifting your gaze up to the roof of the vehicle, you do get a nice sized sunglass holder here, 2 lights to illuminate the cabin, and then some very simple controls to adjust whether or not the lights come on when you open the door or not. And since we're talking cabin lights, I wanted to quickly show you the sun visor. Typically there's a light built into this mirror, but not on the Tucson. It's actually up top on the roof itself. I just thought this was an interesting location, so I wanted to quickly share. I also want to mention that there are no programmable garage door buttons on this vehicle. Typically you see them right here on the rear view mirror, but this is just a standard mirror, right? It's completely blank, no buttons of any kind, and honestly, that's okay in my book. Alright, but enough about cabin lights and mirrors. Let's get to the good stuff. This one has an 8-inch touchscreen display right here in the center console, and it's pretty nice, right? It's got a couple of built-in apps like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. There's also navigation in there and Bluetooth, all that good stuff. I found this very easy to use. I was able to connect my phone in about 15 seconds, which is pretty decent. And I like that there are dedicated buttons down below to help you quickly jump to all the important menus. That really does help things out quite a bit. And then below there are the climate controls. I really like that there are two big dials, one for the fan, one for the temperature setting, and they just feel really good. They click very satisfyingly, so it's clear that they're made out of pretty quality materials. And then down below you have the heated seat controls along with all your standard buttons. These are easy to reach and pretty easy to use. And then below there, slightly behind the gear shift, you have a nice storage area with two power ports, a USB port, and an auxiliary jack. There's also a nice sized storage area that's well, it's pretty perfect to keep your cell phone. Behind there is the gear shift. It's wrapped in leather, made out of quality materials, and as I mentioned before, it's got shiftronic, so sport shift capability. No complaints here. This worked great, moves very smoothly through the gears, which is a nice plus. Behind there you have some controls. Really the important one in my opinion is the drive mode switch. That goes from eco to normal to sport. I played around with this quite a bit and honestly I couldn't see a whole lot of difference between eco and sport. And then in this general area you also have two pretty big cup holders. Nothing impressive here, though I am drinking a ton of green tea this afternoon. And then behind there you have the center armrest that has some built-in storage underneath. And it's got this small removable shelf, which I like the concept of, but I have one in my vehicle, and I don't think I ever actually use it. Anyway, down in the storage area, unfortunately there are no power ports or USB ports of any kind. It's just a large, kind of rectangular storage area. And lastly, before we move on from this area, I do like that there's this little cutout right here by the gear shift. It's pretty much perfect to keep your cell phone. I am seeing more and more cars where they actually have a dedicated spot to keep your cell, which I think is pretty great. All right, Glovebox. This one's not too exciting, right? It's pretty small considering the size of this vehicle, and there's nothing really inside. Well, I should take that back. There's a ton of paperwork inside this one, but there are no ports or shelves or anything interesting. It's just a standard glove box with a decent amount of space to keep all your stuff. All right, before we jump into the back seat, I think I missed something, and that's the controls for the driver's seat. I just want to point out that you can adjust this seat in a lot of different ways, and it has, at least for me, one of my favorites. It has lumbar support. Big deal if you're going on long road trips. It really gives you that extra adjustment to keep things comfortable. All right, so that's all the major highlights of the front seat. Let's jump in the back seat and take a look at what kind of amenities your passengers are going to get a chance to enjoy. All right, first off, legroom, pretty decent. I'm 6 feet tall and I've got, I don't know, 6 inches between my knees and the driver's seat. That's pretty good. Not so good is that there are no dedicated vents back here. Typically they're right here behind the armrest for the front seat, but this is completely blank. Thankfully you do get some cargo storage netting on the back of each seat. This actually feels like it's made out of really nice material. I was pretty impressed with it. And there's also an armrest with two cup holders in it that folds down relatively easily from the center seat. And probably the best feature back here is that the seats are adjustable. So your passengers can actually recline a little bit, which is great. And then you can pull up on this same control pretty lightly, I might add, and the seat just sort of falls forward very easily. I don't know, I'm doing this one-handed, holding a camera, and I'm just really impressed with how easy it is to collapse these seats. You'd be surprised on some of these vehicles how much of a pain it can actually be to do this. And speaking of things that are actually kind of a pain, let's jump outside the vehicle and take a look at the very back, the hatch. The key fob has this little control on it that says that you can open up the back door just by pressing and holding. I tried this a number of ways, right? I lock the vehicle, I unlock the vehicle, I hold for a long time, I hold for a short time, and I could never get the damn thing to open up. Hopefully it works on yours. I just want to point out it did not work on mine. But oh well, no big deal. Let's just open it up the old-fashioned way so we can take a look at what's back here. So there's no third row seat, so you actually get quite a bit of room back here. The wheel wells do infringe on the space just ever so slightly, but I like that it's a big square area for you to haul a ton of stuff. I also really like that underneath the floor of this area there's a full spare tire with a built-in area to keep all your tools. So I'm a big fan of this. And I'm a big fan of how big you can get this storage area when you fold down those rear seats, right? It's hard to gauge this just looking at a video, but I would think you could probably get a full-size mattress back here pretty easily. Not that I'm suggesting you sleep in the Tucson, I'm just trying to give you a kind of a feel for how big this area actually is. And then real quick before we close things out, there's actually a power port back here and some built-in lighting, which is it's a nice touch. And real quick, there is no button to press to automatically close the door, so you do have to do it the old-fashioned way. Anyway, that's pretty much all the major highlights on the 2018 Hyundai Tucson. I got to spend some time with this vehicle, not a whole lot. I had it for 2 days, drove about 147 miles. But I think in that time I had enough time behind the wheel to really get a feel for this vehicle. So what I think you should be asking me is whether or not I would recommend this vehicle to you, yes or no. Yes, look, this is a great crossover, especially at this price point. You get some great tech features, it's fun to drive, easy to convert in lots of different ways. I mean, the back seats are adjustable. You don't really see that very often. All in all, this is a great ride. So if you kind of like the vibe that Hyundai does with their design, I think you're going to love the Tucson. Really. Go check it out, take it for a test drive, and let me know what you think. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time when I rent my 89th rental car. I'll see you then.